regular meeting, Monday, July 22nd, 2024. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Burkett. Here. Mrs. Crawford.
Here.
Mr. Gonzalez.
Here.
Mr. Norris. Mr. Ritzenthaler.
Here.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
roll call, please.
Mr. Norris.
Yes.
Mr. Gonzalez.
Yes.
Mrs. Burkett. Yes. Mrs. Crawford.
Yes.
Mr. Ritzenthaler.
Yes.
Okay, public participation. Each person who wishes to address the board will be asked to give his or her name and address. Remarks should be limited to at least 3 minutes in length. If everyone who wishes to do so has an opportunity to speak, additional comments can be made up to a total allotted time of 30 minutes. No? Okay. Rehire of a retiree, public hearing for Mrs. Smith. No?
This was just the opportunity for the public to comment on it also, so.
Sure? No. All right. Moving ahead, board item. Resolution determining to proceed with an issue of bonds in the amount of $47,780,000 and certifying the same to the Board of Elections. We have a motion to approve board item number 4.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Ritzenthaler.
Yes.
Mrs. Burkett. Yes. Mrs. Crawford.
Yes.
Mr. Gonzalez.
Yes.
Mr. Norris.
Okay, treasurer reports.
Okay, and just to note, this is the final part of the process, and then tomorrow I will take all of our pieces and parts to the Board of Election, and we will have it put on the ballot. So we're ready to go with that. Yeah, it is. Okay, so treasurer's reports, we have the minutes from our June 12th meeting. We then have our June 2024 financial report, which I printed out since it's year end. I thought I would print one out for everybody to look at. You can see it in TV land if you click on the little board pack note. So Happy New Year. June is the end of our fiscal year, so July starts our new fiscal year. We are in fiscal 25, which is just like hard to believe it's already. And just, I remember Y2K, so FY25 is like, wow. So for like the next 6 months, I'm now going to be out of sync with the calendar because I'm thinking 25 and everybody else is still in 24. So we do have a new account at Civista. You'll see that's on, if you look at your cash reconciliation, you'll see it's on your front page. It's a money market at 5%. They did come to us and asked that we open this. They wanted, not just us, but other local school districts, because a lot of us keep the majority of our funds in STAR, the State Treasury Asset Reserve, because it's easy. The investments are what we're allowed to hold. But it's held in Columbus, of course, and it's administered by Huntington Bank. So this way, it does keep some of the money local. And as you know, with banks, they this is how they lend, by what they have to lend out. So that was kind of a good thing. And they did offer us the 5% rate on the money market. So it's slightly under STAR, but it's still close enough that I think for the benefit of having a local, we could put a little bit of our money there. So that was something new. We also have, as you start to look through the financial reports, first page, of course, is our cash reconciliation. So this is not only for June, but for year end. The second cash reconciliation is just where you see that it's actually put into the computer, not just my numbers, it balances with our software. Moving on, we have our interest allocation. Our interest this year was really great. You can see the difference with the interest rates up there in June, almost $30,000 worth of interest. It's just incredible for 1 month. And it makes such a difference because it gives us a little bit extra funds to work with.
Slowly moving those CDs out of those low rates and the high rates.
Yes.
As it goes on.
Yes, and that's the next page is the current investments. You'll see we have 2 new ones that we just opened in June. They're in the pretty mauve color. They're a little bit longer ones. They're at 5.2% and 4.85. It looks like interest rates are slowly, the higher maturities, longer maturities. We can, of course, only go up to 5 years, but the longer maturities are starting to drop, which is normally that's like an inverted yield curve. Usually the longer ones are at the higher rate, but they are starting to drop. But I wanted to have some out there. They're a little bit longer maturities, if it does start to drop. And I look at some of these really low rates and I think, what was I thinking? But interest rates were like nothing for so many years. And it just, back then, to get 0.5% a basis point was like exciting, you know? So, whatever.
Yeah, 0.3 or whatever.
I know, it is just, it's hard to think that that was a good deal then. It's just,
Oh, you can get it,
right?
wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, so now I look at it and I think, do I really want to go long? What if it's some crazy amount in 5 years, you know? But who knows, right? So it might go back. We'll see. Anyhow, part of the investment policy is that we hold our investments to maturity, that we're not like buying and selling and trading all the time. And also we buy these on the secondary market. So if I wanted to get rid of some of these lower rate CDs, we would not get like full value. We won't get the face value. So if it's a $125,000 CD, it would be at a discount. So nobody would give us that because it's a low rate. They would give us 118 or, you know, whatever works out. So that's another reason we just hold them to maturity. So we have 4 of them coming up in August. So that'll be kind of exciting. 4 new CDs. If you flip over to your next page, it's the fund balance report. And this, normally you'll see at the bottom, all of our federal funds tend to be negative because they don't give us the money ahead of time. We have to spend the money and then ask for reimbursement. So they're usually negative every month. But in June, we ask for an advance. I figure out exactly what the payroll is going to be. And then we ask for an advance so that we have enough money to cover, which worked out for everyone except Title I. And actually, I think that was a supply that wasn't purchased that I thought we were going to have a bill for. So that's why everything is zeros. Next month, it's going to be back to being in the negatives. We are able to use our federal funds to pay until the August 15th payroll because we're paying our staff, our teachers, and our aides. We're paying them for last year's work. So we're able to use fiscal 24 grants till August 15th. When they start their new contract, then we'll start the new fiscal 25 grants. So next page is your comparative statements. The first one compares both month end and fiscal year to date. So you can see the difference. We had $1.9 million more in revenue, but we spent $2 million more than last year. And this is just general fund, of course. So we spent more in every category except the capital outlay. And this is to be expected. The increase from 23 to 24 was our Medicaid. We had a final Medicaid payment there, so that made a difference. But you'll see that our revenues were above also in every category, so that was good. The only one that was under was capital outlay, because we normally use our permanent improvement fund for any capital expenditures. So if you flip to your next page, this is the compared to the forecast. So we look at where we ended the year and we compare that to our forecast. Most of what we knew in May was already in. So like our real estate was in. So we knew all those numbers for sure. The one that all other operating revenue that we were over almost $250,000 from what we forecast was the Medicaid payment coming in and some final like rentals, different rentals of things. And the expense side, salaries and wages. This is basically mostly severance payouts. We don't always know when our staff are going to take their severance payout. They could take it by June 30th. Some of them wait, they don't take it until August, and that can really throw a little wrench in our numbers. We also have our science and reading stipends that we sent out, and that was quite a bit of money. We haven't been reimbursed because the way ODE shuts down early June, and then they won't reimburse us until later. But they will reimburse the stipend, the SQRS, and the Medicare, so at least we'll get all the money back. But of course, just like in federal grants, we have to put the money out there first, and then ask for it to be reimbursed. Which is another thing to think about when you hear the state talking about schools having large cash balances, or even having a cash balance. Well, if you don't have a cash balance, you can't do these things. You can't pay people. You can't make payroll. And the state expects you to pay these things out and then get reimbursed. Well, if you don't have a cash balance, it doesn't happen. So just thought I'd throw that little aside in there. Okay, so your next 6 pages are the disbursement report. These are all the checks. We do a lot of ACHs and our payrolls for the month. We're trying to move away from paper checks to ACH for all of our payments to our vendors because there's been so much problem with mail theft and all that. We do use a positive pay through Civista, so I feel a little bit more comfortable that there's less chance of fraud, but there's still, with the paper, is always the chance of fraud. So we're trying to move as much as possible to ACHs for our vendors. In June, we try to pay everything that we can so that it gets into the correct fiscal year, because we're on a cash basis, both for the forecast and for our financial statements. So if we don't pay it till July and it's a big expense that was really a fiscal 24 expense, then it kind of skews the numbers. So that's why you see a lot more disbursements coming out in June. And normally we would just wait and pay in the next month. Next page is the summary of cash balances by fund. This, I think, is a really neat report, okay, because it goes through and it shows you by fund exactly what the beginning balance was, the fiscal year to date, and the current balance. Month to date really isn't quite as important, but you can see our general fund, and this matches up to what I said on the forecast. We're at the negative 134,000. Bond retirement, that's not an operating fund, so it's not such a big deal. Permanent improvement, we're actually down by $653,000 from the previous year, but that's because we hadn't been doing a whole lot with PI. We've kind of been waiting and saving it up for big projects, which the boilers were the big projects, and that is where most of that is going, along with some parking lot issues. And then, but that will replenish next year. We receive about $450,000, $475,000 every year in PI money. The building fund, that was some remaining funds that were from the bond levy. When the high school was completed, it can only be used for the high school, and we used it over last year to fix up some of the roofs. So that's where that one is down. Food service, we are $101,000 below last year, but that really, food service, he's doing really good. He had some things, he had to get extra things this year, and just the whole procurement issues from going from having the nutrition group vendor before to where we're at now. So also getting his staff aligned and he just had some extra expenses, but hopefully with the CEP program next year, we'll see the revenue come back up. But I'm not that worried about it because we still have a pretty good positive balance. We're doing a lot of extra things. We've got money coming in over the summer that we normally never did with the after-school programs and the summer cooking program, where anybody can go and get their free meals for their student. It doesn't even have to be an Newark City School District student. It can be any student can go and get the free lunch at League, Maplehurst, and Pleasant, 11:30 to 12 every day, Monday through Friday. So that's great. And you don't have to bring your student with you if they're like, I don't know, at the pool. You can just come and get it for them. It's not like we require a student. So let's see. Where were we? The other big one is the Student Wellness and Success Fund. We have $437,000 remaining. This was from 2021 in the budget. It was a separate amount given to schools that they were supposed to use for student wellness. We've been using it for mental health counselors and our, I'm blanking on what the name of that program is, Leader in Me program, and different things like that. Possibly we may have to use this for our Boys and Girls Club so that we're able to fund it going forward because they're having some funding issues. But this money does have to be spent by the end of this year, fiscal 25. So I'm looking to use it for our social worker, our school nurses. 50% of it has to be spent on physical or mental health. Otherwise, we have to send it back to the state. But that's why there's a big difference. No, we don't have to do that. That's why that one is a negative, because it is meant to be spent down. And the final big difference is the school safety grant that Dan got last year, that $600,000 that came in last year, and it had to all be spent by the end of this year. So that's another negative. So when we look at the difference between last year and this year, all funds, not just general fund, but all funds, you'll see we're down $1.7 million. But those are the reasons for it. So it's not like, I mean, of course, it's always a cause for concern when general fund is decreasing, but overall, it's explainable. Our next report is our cash summary report. This one is a little bit more detailed. It's kind of like the cash balance, but it breaks it down. So if you're looking like it's a 200 fund, when you look at the cash balance fund, everything, all of the 200 accounts are put together. And 200 accounts are student activity accounts, the different clubs and bands and whatnot. When you look at the cash summary, it'll break it down into the individual ones, so you can see where the spending's at and that. So that's a nice one. The final reports that we have are the summary, the appropriation summaries, and the revenue summaries. These are there so that you can see each month, compared to what I've appropriated and the estimated revenue, what percentage we're at for the year. So at June 30th, of course, we're at 100% because all of our appropriations are either spent or our revenue is in. So that's why those are all at 100%. So now that we've closed the year, the next step is to start the audit. Rain Associates has already started compiling our financial statements, and then the state auditors will come in and audit those. I know, it's because they were so late last year. Yeah, but it is a process, it just keeps going. So those are the financial reports. The next we have is Vision Services through Delta Dental, a contract. We already have PSP for our vision benefit for our employees. Delta Dental is going to continue VSP, but that's who we have our dental through from HESI. They put it all together, so we were able to get slightly lower prices. It went from like $692 for a single plan per month to $504. So there is a difference, and our employees shouldn't see anything because it still is VSP. The benefits are all the same. It's not a huge savings, but we'll take anything. Next is the bids. Food service. Mr. Kraft asked that we actually go out and bid produce, bread and milk. We always have to bid it, but we normally do it through a consortium like the Ohio Schools Council or something else does a big procurement one, and then we go in on their bid. But he thought if we did these locally, we would be able to get a little bit better bids. If not, we can still use the consortium. So either way, that one's going to be a win-win. So we'll go ahead and get that sent out. We're looking to, of course, we waived all of our school fees for next year. We're also looking to waive our participation fees for next year. These are the ones if students were in extracurriculars like sports or band or anything like that. It was $150 a student, and then there was a family cap on it. We hadn't done this since, I believe, since COVID, and the athletic boosters had been reimbursing some of it. I don't know that they're doing that next year, but we are still looking to waive those fees for the next year. Hopefully the boosters can do something, but if not, we're still going to at least try and waive it one more year. Then we have the pay rate for the substitutes for next school year. The increase for certified substitutes, our teacher subs, is going up $5 a day. We do, if you are retired from New York City School Districts or if you work more than 40 days a sub, there is an additional benefit. Also, if we have a certified long-term sub, we wanted that to be a little bit more. These are our subs that cover maternity, or for some reason, if a teacher's out for quite a long time, where the sub is actually doing lesson plans and has more work to do. So we wanted to recognize that with a little bit more money. They do, if they work 60 days, go on the teacher salary schedule and receive benefits. But this is if they're less than 60, but still like 20 or more. Our classified subs, we are increasing that. It was $12.60 an hour. It's going to $13 per hour. And then our classified bus driver, both the trips and the routes, we're increasing those. And that is all I have for you this month.
Thank you, Joyce. We have a motion to adopt items 1 through 6 under treasury reports. Second? Second. Any discussion?
I think waiving the participation fees is a huge deal. I've been receiving lots of phone calls and text messages on parents that have heard the rumor mill that they're gonna have to pay, and they're worried that they can't. So I think we really, whatever you guys did was awesome to be able to do that because parents were worried that their kids weren't gonna pay this year. So
Right.
it's awesome. Good job.
Have we ever denied somebody to play?
I don't think
we have.
somebody's always stepped up.
Stepped up,
Yeah, I mean, that's the great thing about our community. Someone will cover someone, and so no one's not going to participate in something because that's a stopper.
Yeah.
So that's where people very much get used to, like, someone will always pick it up, but yeah, that's not advertised. We have people come to the aid when necessary. But this is a huge step because, as you know, families multiple, students, athletes, you're paying $300 a year.
Yeah, that was like that.
Gets expensive. So the fact that can be covered and the expenses that come with all these programs, like nothing's getting less expensive these days, as we know.
Yeah, we're doing all we can to help parents out. Yeah, it's
Right,
good.
right. It's like next year, we're on the CEP program, so there will be no fees for school lunch or school breakfast. We're not having any school fees. We unfortunately weren't able to do the school supplies again this year, because our ESSER money has run out. That was, over the end of '24. But,
Still have stuff to bus.
right, we still stuff the bus, and we're trying to limit what we're asking the parents to bring. So some of the things we're as a district still covering, like the wipes and
I was gonna say, I noticed the cleaning
the
supplies,
baggies, yeah.
tissues, things
So
of
we're
that
trying to
nature.
keep it just actual
awesome.
school supplies,
Mhm.
and consolidate that a little bit.
Okay, any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Norris?
Yes.
Mrs. Burkett?
Yes.
Mrs. Crawford?
Yes.
Mr. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Mr. Ritzenthaler?
Yes.
Personnel?
We have had an active July,
We sure have.
so if you visit my office and you say, I know our president and vice president have been there and saw the board, the dry erase board, so it's getting filled, so I might need to ask the crew to install a second one,
Yeah,
or
very little room on that one, I noticed.
or Kim McConnelly will have to learn to write smaller font, or whatever it be. But a lot of these have been family kind of based reasons for. So you're looking like, why are people leaving our district? There's family decisions. We're moving elsewhere. So they make sense, but some of them, they're tough because they're quality people there that are listed there. So first one, Amy Battle, she's actually retiring. So looking to celebrate her likely at the September board meeting. So that was a decision she made. So that is actually a retirement. Angela Morgan just came in the other day. She is a French teacher at the high school. So we've had multiple meetings looking at what that program looks like. The numbers are getting very small. We're heavy on Spanish and very light on French. We're probably a year away having to decide, what do we want to do? Do we want a second language, or do we want to increase and have another Spanish teacher? So those are the decision points we're having to make. So I know Mr. Kenya, Mr. Spettel, the counselors met today looking at options, because if you're taking French currently, we want to make sure those in 3 and 4 have the progression to finish that. So that might be an online, that might be some means, because the people just don't exist in that area. And the bulk of our students are going Spanish, so that might be the language we look at. I've always said Norwalk's large enough to support 2 languages, but it's tough because you have to have instructors in those areas. So we may be evaluating that piece and then looking as to what we do next year. But we'll come up with a solution to take care of our high school kids and our middle school kids that we're going to have the exposure class in French. Luke McCoy was a title teacher at Maine. He is leaving us. Erin Casper is a high school science teacher. She is going several states over. Cora Blakely, classified. She's resigning as of July 5th. Lindsay Bruner, she was the secretary at Main Street. She is resigning. Nick Kish, principal at grade 4, our league standalone building. That was another family move that he tried to get his wife to come this way to the west, and the east won out. So yeah, he's headed down to the Stowe, Hudson areas where he is. So going to continue in administration in Stowe, Monroe Falls. So that is Mr. Kish. So we will definitely miss him. He's been with us for 3 years now, 1 year at the high school and 2 at the league. So definitely a big heart, and people have seen that from him. We have Lindsay Webb. So she's resigning from the assistant robotics coaching position. So we had hired her in June, and then we actually have people fill those positions, but she is stepping away from that right now. Dave Daniels, he is resigning because he was previously hired at our May 8th meeting. That's a simple move from high school to middle school. So that's why he's in the resignation lineup there. Number 2, we have the reemployment of our retiree, Valerie Janice Smith, and she will be placed on step 4 of the administrative contract. And because it's a retiree hire, she is a 1 year. So that is why it's a 1 year that does go through 2025. Now the exciting news here, number 3, the employment. We have Heather Loomis, 2-year contract, principal at League Elementary, teacher at Sandusky for 22 years, background in elementary ed and special ed, so intervention specialist, so that's her background. So we have her here today with her family, so thank you for being here to give us the audience here outside of So we look forward to working with you and very excited, Heather, to have you as a trucker now. So that's a long time blue streak there with her sons as well. So she'll still have time to support the blue streak colors, but yeah, we got one color in common, so
Yeah.
she'll have to switch everything. Next up, Josh Newberger. He is a brand new hire, so that's actually our science replacement for Aaron Casper. So if you know the Newbergers, if you know him, top-notch individual, played 4 years of football at Bluffton. So we are excited to have Josh on board. He's going to be a good hire for us and add a lot to Norwalk High School for sure. Jessica Bontag, she was 2 years with us as the long-term position at Lee. So she basically had a resume shown for 2 years straight when we had those long-term permanent positions. That entire staff wanted her there. And once we interviewed her, it became pretty clear she was the right choice to be. So we're making these fourth grade hires and then letting Principal Loomis know who we hired because that timing was all at the same time. So to have her join that mix, she was not, but we had teachers.
Day, wasn't it?
It's the blur of the 2 weeks, but so we said, yeah, you don't need to come to these, but we are interviewing, and obviously had teachers and individuals from that staff, from that team, that part of it, because I like to have more eyes, more kind of lens than just the admin side. The most critical part is like who's in that building. Just like when we interviewed Heather, we had several teachers there that are putting their input in as to, what type of leader are we looking for, and Heather met that call, and clearly Jessica did too. So now the next one we have here, Cameron Greer. She is a 2019 trucker graduate, so she has 1 year experience. She's been at New London as an intervention specialist, and now she's coming here for the second fourth grade position that came up within a week's time. So we're making calls. I'm talking to superintendents because we're beyond that July 10th date. So I'm talking to Dan Rambler, I'm talking to Brad Romano at New London to say, would you release these individuals from their contract? You have to have that conversation first. So we are very excited to have Cameron on board. So if you guys haven't met, you guys will be in the building together as colleagues working at League. So yeah, very excited to have Cameron. Her sister actually just walked the stage. So all you shook her sister's hand here a month plus ago, right? So excited to have you here, Cameron. Melissa Sigg, educational assistant for Title I, and then Samantha Clark. She is one of our cook positions. We still have several fills, and then we have a cafeteria manager as well. So Brad Kraft is still active in trying to land the right people to fill our cafeteria manager and cooking staff. Number 4, employment for the summer food service program at the hourly rate of $13.75. The 3 names listed there. Employment of resident educator. So this is essentially the person that oversees the help, the assistance of new teachers and assigning them with a mentor. So every new teacher, as a brand new teacher, they need that assistance. So people have to go through classes, and they're working with that to make sure that teacher has the professional development and the skill set they need as they're learning as new teachers. So asked because that was tied with Mr. Kish, and it wasn't always like a part of because you're league principal, that's what it is. But Mr. Kish has been that. So I spoke with Mrs. Loomis the other day, and she said absolutely she would be willing to do that. So she will have to take a class to do that part of it. And then, as you know, Kayla, I'm looking at you being in the business, those assignments will take place to match and, quality professionals up with our newest of educators. So that's what that role means. Number 6, change of classification, Rachel Preston. So she is the one that's going to be taking, she'll be Mr. Kreischer's secretary at Main Street. So that's to fill for Lindsay Bruner leaving us. So she has been an aide at Maplehurst. So we're excited. She was in the mix. We've had multiple openings there, and she's interviewed, and other people have been selected. And she was definitely has shown herself to be the right person for the job. So we're excited. Mr. Kreischer is excited to have Rachel Preston working with him at Maine. Rebecca Shield, that's a change. So that's the opening that we have of cafeteria manager. So she has made the decision to go to educational assistant. So she has been that. She's in the cafeteria, and then she's ready for some reasons as to why it makes sense for her to be back as an educational aide. So that's a change of classification, and that's why she is listed there. 7 is essentially someone who had worked for 2 hours, but it was not initially approved. So Elaine Toth, and that's to be using ESSER funds for cleaning that's already occurred. So that's, like I said, we don't like to do that, but that's what played out here. That's after the fact. Substitute, so the first name very well. You thought she was here. We celebrated her, and she retirement, and Becky's going to disappear. No, Becky can't disappear. We know Becky, and she needs to be in the mix. So she says, if I have an opening to be in any of the buildings as secretary, she's ready to go. So yeah,
Call me at 5 a.m. I'll be there.
I know, exactly. So no one can say no to her, and we definitely would take Mrs. Chapin in any seat of the 6 buildings we currently have. Second one there is Paul Burkhart. He has been with us in the past, and he is on the list for certified subbing as well. 9, we have a stipend for kindergarten screening. So we essentially have one more date. That's 8/6, and as of then, I'll be able to email, text you guys the actual numbers of what we're looking at. But Mr. Morset's looking pretty consistent with our numbers of this past year. So, so like you look at enrollment, are we dipping? Are we staying stable? It's looking pretty consistent from last year. So he expects to add essentially 20 to 25 kids on that last date in August 6th. So that's kind of been the standard fare. So you have the 3 teachers that work at that building that will be assisting in that activity. 10, we have a stipend for Chris Jackson as driver's education instructor, and that's training with EHOVI, $100 per day for 5 days. 11, we have supplemental contracts, and this is one more cleanup that was not on the books prior. This is Daniel Harp. So 23-24, that is not a misprint, that is 23-24. That was missed from last year, so that's actually putting her on the code to be paid for 23-24 service. Norwalk Middle School, we talked to Mr. Scheid. He is wanting to be the athletic director again, so he is code 6, step 9. We are not needing to do an additional, the Steve Gray version, as you know, like faculty advisor, to serve that person that actually covers duties and events and helps gates and takes money and those, and we're not needing to do that. So that's one area we're not having to fill. You look at between Ray Scheid, Scott Spettle, and Josh Slaughter being the high school director of student activities. With his own children there, he's going to be at many of those events too. So between those 3 individuals, all those games will be covered because it's critical in like team events, especially. Everyone's going to be there at a home game, and obviously football and those you like for someone to travel as well. So that is the plan. So that's why Ray Scheid is back in the seat as athletic director at the middle school. Several positions here, like excited student athletes, and several of these are trucker grads. Chase Campbell is helping out at boys soccer. Ethan Boris, he's like the happiest individual when he came in to be coaching. And like when he came in, he is excited. So
Talk to his dad. He really is excited.
yeah, so he is ready to get back. So a good runner, and now he's going to assist our future runners. So Tyler Smith helping with football, and then in girls tennis is Jennifer Myers as an assistant coach. At Norwalk Middle School, as mentioned previously, Dave Daniels going from high school to the head for Norwalk Middle School, and then Tracy Summers to be the assistant coach. So that is what I have for personnel.
We have a motion to adopt all items under personnel.
So moved.
Second? Second. Any discussion? You were busy. That's what you get for saying you were taking a vacation.
Just when I put vacation days in,
Yeah.
the fun started. So like I learned my
Good
lesson. I will
try.
never do that again.
He's like, I'm gonna be off for a few weeks. I'm like, oh, you shouldn't have said that.
And we've never had, you look at the past years, we have not had much action in Main Street and League, and that's where all this fun was this year. So we have the principal piece, so then we're doing that with teachers and kind of serving that role of principal, trying to land everybody at the same time to make it happen. But I'm excited with all the individuals. We are getting the right pieces in place, and yeah, very excited.
Well, welcome to both of you, and thanks for coming, and glad to have you on the trucker team. Any other discussion?
What side will you sit on?
Oh, wow.
There's some
Yeah,
fun
it
on the
depends
spot
on where
there.
the game's at.
Yeah, there we go.
We'll get you a hat you can pull down low, or a bucket hat that says truckers, and you can spin it to the backside that says Blue Streaks.
There we go.
There you go.
My mother-in-law has grandkids that play both for Huron and Norwalk. Obviously, she wears a shirt that's actually sewed together that's split.
Oh,
You
that's
can try
awesome.
that, but we'd rather you wore truckers.
I might wear the trucker shirt and sit on the Blue Streak side.
There you go. Toss some rockets. All right, no more discussion. Roll call, please.
Mr. Gonzalez.
Yes.
Mrs. Burkett. Yes. Mrs. Crawford.
Yes.
Mr. Norris.
Yes.
Mr. Ritzenthaler.
Yes.
Superintendent's reports.
All right, so this was the policy that you have all looked at, that Dan Louder produced to make sure that we're in compliance with the new policy set forth. So that's what is happening with the electronic device. So as we talked before, with Keith Moore being the assistant at the high school, like I think you wished it well, because that's a whole nother piece that where we've gone on the continuum of, okay, kids can use phones all the time, have them out, and now it's that restriction. So you can imagine anybody who's worked with children, and then you've had this, and then we kind of ratchet it back. It's a change. It's a change in behavior. It's not just, and I said, it's not just students, it's staff as well. You think about staff, that how many times we all do this and look at our phone, like that's a staff element too, because you're the role model. So our very staff have to be aware of this policy to make sure like you're not modeling something that you're asking your kids, which is different than what you show. So that's the policy set forth, and that's being adopted by many schools at this time, with that being in the news as such.
Do you want to
number-
talk about the yonders?
What's that?
The yonders?
I was gonna ask
I
that.
was just-
Yeah, go ahead if you're clear on that.
Did we talk about that?
I felt like Mr. King just showed that.
Show them to us? The
Yeah.
pouches that
Yes.
have the magnetic locks on them.
I remember
Well,
seeing
that was
it
at the
right
athletic meeting that I saw.
Yeah.
Were they brought into a board meeting?
We went to one of our building meetings, I saw it on the news right before we got there, and I was showing you, so, I mean, how will that work? So, because we have so
You
many
are right,
kids
Breakfast
coming.
Champions, when
That's
they
what it
actually
was.
had the first
Yes,
one,
that's what it was,
that was the
Breakfast
sample we
Champions,
saw it.
yeah.
So like, here's what it is. You put your phone in that, the bag is locked, and you basically have to like do the touch. So is there like some way around like everything? Well, potentially, but we're saying this is a value piece, rather than some math teachers have the calculator drops, like put your pocket there, like put your phone in the, like, but this is actually secure, like it's there, it's safe, it's secure. Because what most students know, they're like, don't touch my phone, that's my property, even though my parent probably pays for it, somebody pays for it, it's not me. It's still like, it's mine. So to say like, give me that phone, like there's no administrator that does, even like I'm going to like, give me your phone, and certain like, we don't do that anymore, but the kid's gonna know it's locked and put away.
And
So,
that's what we've gone with, is that
Yes.
program?
yeah.
And they're gonna be issued one of those at the
Yes.
beginning of the school year?
So will you do a process, like I saw in the news, some of them are doing, as soon as they were walking in, they were doing them. I feel like we can't really do that though. We have kids coming in different entrances. How will you decide who goes into the little locked pocket?
Yeah, we're probably getting to the deeper
Yeah.
questions like Mr. Kenya, because he and his team have been discussing that, like when it's distributed, how it's gonna be communicated out. So, yeah, he is definitely the one that probably
Kind
can
of
go
figuring that
the
out.
next level with his team of,
Well, I
what
wasn't
does
sure if
that
they were
look
just
like?
gonna do it if it was caught too, like, okay, now it's caught, here's your
right,
magnetic purse to keep it
Right.
in until
right.
the end of the day.
Those pouches are purchased with grant money.
And once that phone's in that pocket locked, there's no way to get it out
It's just like
until they
you go to
run
the
it
store, you
underneath
have
the
the
machine.
little buttons, they just. cross
scan
the
it.
machine.
Yeah, okay.
Of something that you put value, so yeah. It's not that you haven't already researched,
Yeah.
like,
You just can't-
what is the way around, like.
Can't go down to the grocery store and try to get out there.
How will that work for smartwatches? Like, is that part
Yeah,
of
that's-
the?
Yeah, that was talked about. Do I have second line on that, or that was talked about? Yeah.
It's just something that I see a lot of kids with the smartwatches and.
Yeah. Mr. King is the right person for this, as you know,
Sure.
like his background is number one, like at Sandusky, he was at Perkins.
Yeah.
He was Mr. Technology, so he's very much aware of that and like where that is and how that connection is. So yeah,
Yep.
that's part of the discussion too. So I don't want to state things here, and obviously
Sure.
those listening to this, that is not going to be followed through with. That's why I don't want to go too much, because Mr. King in the high school group, that's primarily the emphasis. Because that's not going to be the case all the way down to elementary buildings.
I was just gonna ask, what grades does this affect? Because I know a lot of sixth graders, thinking ahead, that that's their life,
Right,
So-
right. So we're secondary right now, so it's going to be middle and high.
middle and high.
So, and then, like I said, you're like all things, you'll be evaluating, like,
As
how
you
does
go.
that even work and what you need to do. So that'll be looked
We
at.
never even let,
The middle school and down, they were not allowed to have.
we weren't allowed to have them anyway. It was
Yeah.
it was only the
Okay.
high school that had that leniency, I think, right? I
Correct.
believe. because-
Correct.
The only thing I would ask is that Mr. Kenya sends out this policy, like the actual policy in his newsletter. Let's post it on the website. Let's share it on our social media so that there's a lot of parents that don't know this is happening. There's a lot of parents that didn't see the, governor send out anything. Actually, we're talking to people today. And then whatever policy we set up for, why don't we use that? Or I think the more communication we give, the better the parents are to be ready for the, blowback they get
Right.
from the kids. And if parents have to go pick them up, if they're taken away, they should be well aware that could happen.
Right.
That would be my only request.
So yes, like all things we do, there are great things that come with it and other things that are, produce some challenges, and that's clearly the case.
Get ready for
It's a
messages.
High school athlete.
Everybody get prepared for their
Late
minutes.
night phone calls.
We go into the governor's office.
His direct email address.
What are all these calls?
All right, second here is agreement with Midwest Regional for vision impaired services. Number 3 is an agreement with Fisher Tice Medical for our 2 nurses, so we are continuing that, so that's for Norwalk City. The next one is for Norwalk Catholic and the auxiliary funds for them to have 1 nurse for the 24-25 school year. 5 is ODS Transportation. That is a contract that needs to be signed if approved tonight. And then the next one, it's always exciting to have individuals from other countries experience the Norwalk High School and Norwalk community. So we have a student from Japan and Italy for the 24-25. So those individuals will be at Norwalk High School. So that's exciting. We have families in this area, so high school principals are always getting calls, and like we have X number of host families, and then and that's how it landed. So we have been a good place because they actually have evaluations of like, we're kids who have been here, like, was that a good experience? And that's the like positive you get of like Norwalk High School kids from other countries have rated Norwalk High School to be a good place and a good experience, because it's all relative. You don't know, what's a great experience? Well, we know a lot of times it's the host family.
Yeah.
The host family can make or break it. It might not be the school, because we've had some in families where like, I want to be in every activity at school because I love the school aspect. So if you have a great host family and a great school experience, that is going to be an unbelievable experience for any exchange student. So that's what we hope for, and we can make sure one part is solid, and that's what we do here at the school. So that's all I have.
Okay, may I have a motion to adopt items 1 through 6 under superintendent's report?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
any other discussion about? Okay, roll call please.
Mr. Norris?
Yes.
Mrs. Burkett?
Yes.
Mrs. Crawford?
Yes.
Mr. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Mr. Itzenhour?
Yes.
Okay, board discussions, anything with legislative report?
We have other items we'd like to talk
Yeah,
about.
so, okay.
I'm going to start, Mr. Bowman, on the driver's ed, and
Yes.
where we are with that in numbers.
Yes. So shortly after our June board meeting, we had our driver's ed inspection. We've been working since early fall, with looking at the option of bringing driver's education back into the school. From what we gathered, it's been 40 years, maybe the mid-80s since we had driver's ed in the school. So through a long process, we had our inspection, and we are excited to say that we now are a licensed driver's education school.
Awesome.
So we are very excited. I don't know if, we came in through the horseshoe here, our driver's ed cars out there. We went through the inspection with that, but we are so excited. As of today, this morning, we have a total of 71 students that are registered for driver's education this next school year. With 44 in the first semester, 27 in the second semester. We have a max of 80 that we can accommodate, which we're pretty sure that we'll hit that this year. So, 80 students, and some of the students, their families in the past may not have been able to afford, because it can get expensive, especially, if you have multiple students or kids in your family. Sometimes it can run $400 or $500 to get your driver's license. So you figure, 80 kids, times that much is going to save our parents a lot of money. And we feel that, having it in the school is a great opportunity for our kids. I mean, that's one of the goals that we have, is always looking for opportunities for our kids. We think this one is going to pay big dividends, not only for the kids, but for the families. Mr. Jackson has, as you know, or tonight, having gone through the training, through EHOBE, he is now a licensed certified driver trainer. So he will, kind of the ground floor of our program. We're working with EHOBE to kind of get us off the ground, and hopefully soon, we'll be able to get additional instructors. So we can expand that part of it, but we're very excited, and I know that the parents are excited, the kids are excited. So it's, I think been a long time coming that, some of us, that were in school a few years ago, remember having driver's ed in school. So it's a great place to have that.
I'll say this, being on the board of Hobie, they do have 4 cars over there.
Yeah.
Extremely popular course. I mean, of
Yes.
course, they have the kids that are older over there, but,
One of the things that we looked at, we wanted to provide some of our older students that have not been able to get their driver's license to kind of have that first dibs at it. But I think we can accommodate not only them, but the other driving.
Well, as Mr. Cooley said, our community is amazing and they pitch in huge thanks to Don Tester Ford for donating this car to Norwalk City School District and our students, because we couldn't have done it without them. And I just think that just shows our community right there, the whole, no hesitation,
Yeah.
beautiful car. Luckily,
Scott was our first person we went to. We
Yeah.
started with Scott, and so if you know Scott and the whole Tester family, they're givers to Norwalk City, to Norwalk Catholic. I mean, they're giving to both school communities, and it's unbelievable. So it wasn't too hard. We didn't have to be a great salesman to say, we're pitching this, what we're doing for our students. And it was like, yes, let's make it happen. So a couple meetings, and then he's calling us and say, yep, we've got one locked down, and here you go. So like
you
I
have the
said,
keys in your hand before you even get
I
the
know.
first sentence.
I know. So, yeah, Scott and the family, they're great people. And like I said, Norwalk is rich, and Norwalk Catholic as well. I mean, they're not one or the other. They give to all. And like I said, that's, and we even asked, like, we wanted to put Tester Ford and wrap that vehicle and say Tester Ford. I don't need that. That's the humble nature of him. Well, like, I don't need that. Put your student driver on it, the legal aspect, but he didn't want to wrap, because he probably thought he had to pay for the wrap. Maybe that's it. And by the way,
We
that's
also do that,
$2,000 more to have that nice wrap. But
And somewhere down the line, we're gonna have to look at expanding our fleet, for sure. Once right now, we're at a cap of 80 kids, but who knows,
So Mr. Jackson's gonna be able to handle, if it gets
Well,
to 80 and.
we'll see how he does
Yeah,
that for
Jeremy
the
Bliss
first
is
few
also,
students too.
from the Hobie, is also helping with that. So he will be teaching also. So it'll be the two of them. But we're hoping, down the road to get additional instructors, so.
It's gonna take some nerve to get in the car for the kids for the first time too and say, here, let's.
By the way, I didn't want to wrap.
Just completely, I tested it, for sure.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, luckily it's still in good shape
Emergency
after
brake
you.
doesn't work.
another break works.
And the
Yeah.
other side guys look across, I'd like to try that break.
Yeah. It does work well.
Yeah.
No, what an awesome blessing to have here, and thank you guys for doing that. It's just like that, after school programs, all these things are really adding up, and I'm really excited about this and really appreciative for, like you said, it's $400 or $500 per kid. On top of everything else, it's really expensive and it's amazing to offer.
Being the oldest guy on the staff here, but I remember taking driver's ed in high school, and I learned a lot. You respect it.
I took it in high school.
What's that?
I took it in high school.
Did you? Yeah.
Like through the high school?
Through the high school.
Yeah.
Driver's ed, then health.
Mhm.
Took driver's ed. That was way back in the 90s.
I'm with you there. I did too. I'm your era. We're the same.
This was back in the 60s. So it goes way
They didn't have
back.
power steering back then.
Early 2000s, but
10-2 was actually to turn that wheel around.
Yeah.
We did have automatic transmission, so we didn't have to worry about that.
So we met with several from Boys and Girls Club today. So I know there was a story read in Norwalk, Ohio News a few days ago that spoke to financial issues and them running out of some of their monies and having to cut clubs. We have the monies available to continue through the year, so that was communicated with the two individuals today, that we plan to continue this and evaluate the program as to whether we want to stay with Boys and Girls Club, or are we looking to finance it and do it as our own club. I've argued that no one in Norwalk necessarily is tied to Boys and Girls Club as that name itself. Like they want, like parents and families want quality. They want a place they know their kid is safe. And there's the academic piece, there's the recreational piece, the arts and all those like components, and a meal at night. Like those are the critical parts. So we made it very clear to them that we weren't necessarily happy with the organization of Boys and Girls Club. And we're fortunate that we had Janice Smith and the people that stepped up locally to make this happen this last year and run through the summer program of this year. So we intend to stay with them. So I know if you look at us and we don't have some of the funding federal grants that other clubs have, we don't have that, but we have the monies to make sure that we can stay with Boys and Girls Club this year because of the timing. We don't have it to put our procedures in place to run it ourselves. So we will be tied with Boys and Girls Club. That is our plan, available and accessible to our families. And then, yeah, we will closely be evaluating because I'm very much, if you get quality people, I don't care what the name is, you can run a good show. So we'll make that determination if Boys and Girls Club adds something to us, or yeah, we create our own name and have our own people locally that operate it. We do have post Janice Smith. We do have someone that's operating that we're very pleased with. Mr. Ballman and I have met with her several times. We were impressed by her, and actually I kind of talked to her like, would you like to work some things for the school too? Because I think I can piece some puzzles together to give her a full day of quality work. But yeah, we're impressed with her right now, so we'll see where that goes. Because we definitely, like I said, the kid angle, having fed, having like, I think parents and families in our community are happy. We just didn't like the admin side of it, what we saw with Boys and Girls Club. And that was relayed to them today, and they understand that they need to sharpen up their game for us to continue with them.
Do you know how many, off the top of your head, how many kids are in the program right now?
So summer program, we're 35 plus or minus. We had intended to have close to 75, 80. And then during the school year, we didn't always have staff coverage. So then you had those on the waiting list. So we're kind of stuck in the middle of like more than 40, but then you're like not quite the number that we want it to be. So that's what we talked about, because clearly you're getting a director, potentially assistant director, and 4 teachers. They give them a different title, but essentially that role. So I think we had some parents that because they're on the waiting list for so long, you just kind of forgot about it and they didn't push it. So that's why you have to start a program, be strong, be good, and then the kids are going to talk, parents are going to talk, and then that's going to go up. Those numbers are going to go through the roof. So that's very much the plan. But like I said, it was a little bit shaky on the administrative side. And if we didn't have our locals in Janice Smith and some of our trucker graduates who are taking classes at Bowling Green Firelands and have a schedule that works, that's how I was able to be successful for last year from the kid family angle. Because it is difficult. You think about staffing, it is difficult to fill any staffing positions these days. And you're talking, you want a certain niche time of the afternoon to work. So you either have to be doing something else and saying, this is a second job for me, or taking class at Bowling Green Firelands as a college student, and say, yeah, I want to make a few dollars and I love working with children. Like that's the angle, but it's tough because it's not the first shift. It's in the middle of like end of first shift into second shift, and who can make that work? If you have family and kids yourself, so you kind of narrow your own potential employees based on that. So
Perfect position for retirees, though. Hey, teacher retirees that would be interested. Yeah.
so
That'll be on the,
even people that write for papers, they're like, you know, they find a window time, right? To make things work. Very flexible hours.
They also are looking for volunteers to come in and like talk about things with the students like that, you know, come in and share what you do and, you know, activities like that in Richmond, so.
So 2 of the areas besides Matt, like you in that capacity, of talking about your position with children, like Brad Kraft we mentioned and Will Kish, like teaching young kids guitar, like giving basic kids like guitar lessons. Like, is there anything cooler than that? Will Kish coming and give you guitar lessons, drum lessons, and learning how to cook and make like those are the things that like tie kids to this program and say, that was awesome. They tell their friends like, you gotta come, we did this. Because we don't want just more school. Because if you think that, like the school part has to be kind of disguised in the fact of other activities you're doing. Because there's always teaching happening, but that's got to be disguised. Because if you think I'm going to have a kid sit in a classroom when they've gone straight through a day, and I'll sit down here for another 3 hours, and let's work on schoolwork. Well, there's a way of learning happening without actually being so
Make it fun.
This was boring. Like, let me play some hoops, let me do some cooking, let me play some guitars. That's what's gonna bring the numbers in, for sure. So, yeah, exciting. I think good news. Joyce DuPont gave the folks her best like skeptical look because of so we're ready to change the game and like from their admin ranks and like I said, see that change. And if not, I think we have supporters that can make this happen and make a local program. But it is definitely when you do something like that and it works so well, it's hard to pull away from and say we're doing it. But obviously, it is a financial piece that we have to look at as well.
At least we have some time to see what else we can do with it.
So.
The only other thing I had is maybe we could talk about the bond committee. So we know that with our board item, we are, moving forward and have our funds available for votes in November for our building. Garmin Miller has been establishing a bond committee. So if there's any interest out there from our community to be on this bond committee, please reach out to Mr. Cooley. Maybe there's some contacts with Garmin Miller. I mean, the more people we have talking about this and getting, factual information out there, the better. And we hope to have a lot of support because, November will be here and I really hope we're going to be building a new school.
So there was supposed to be a meeting tonight, but that was actually postponed because of the board meeting. So right now, August 6th is our next bond committee. So that's not open to anybody, but obviously if you express interest and want to be a part of that, clearly you have more people getting that messaging out. That is what we want. So we're having, people that are very diverse in the community of a whole mix of individuals of what they do and why they want to fight for the school and what they want for Norwalk City School District for years and years to come. So that's very much out there looking for the name, looking for the slogan, because when we start back, and I say start back in August, and people get back in the routine of school, that is going to be the push. We have August, September, October. That's our time frame. That's the window we have to communicate our message out to the public to let them know, why the time is now. So the one aspect where Joyce and I legally, we are not able to necessarily serve in that and be going beyond a presentation of facts. So if you're wondering, I'm looking directly at you, wondering why Joyce and myself, we have to stop at some point. We can deliver the facts, but we can't say vote this way, vote that way, or others. So that was a part. So there's two in the district that can't do that, and essentially everybody else can be in a role where you can, because there's an end time. Well, not really, but to principals, to teachers, like we know there's not, but there's a supposed end time in which you can be on that part and make the case for the school. So a superintendent and treasurer can't. But like I said, I've hopefully could talk to clubs and all the different organizations in our community. I've done that quite a bit already. But the stop has to be the presentation of the facts of what are involved with it. So anything else there, Mrs. DuPont?
Just the facts.
But if you're on this committee, you can do the facts and all the other reasons why we're, looking to build a new school, and you get to be our voice. So hopefully we have some interest. Anybody else have any other discussion?
I just want to say, just for a moment, I just want to highlight, I think, our district leadership here. Even just tonight, hearing some of the things that are happening, starting with you, Joyce, and the way you're investing our dollars and making sure that we're in a strong financial position, but also making sure that we're responsible in terms of investing locally. I think that's top-notch leadership. I just want to say I appreciate that. The same with Mr. Ballman here. I know you leave no stone unturned with respect to getting grants and making sure our students aren't disadvantaged in any way. I think this driver's ed program is just another opportunity for us to continue to up our game. Just want to say I appreciate your work and continue to look for those opportunities. And then, of course, Mr. Cooley, I think again and again, with the great people you continue to bring to our district to add to, I think, what is already a stellar team. I think, again, it just highlights the leadership that we have here in our district. So, again, thank you.
You got Jen Gerber's out there, and she'd
Yeah.
she'd be at other places
Yeah.
tonight.
Thankful to be part of a good team here,
Yeah.
definitely.
Really do have a strong administrative team that's done so much in the last 4 years. I mean, we could sit there and write a list. I mean, it's amazing. I personally so excited to be part of it. Thank you. Anybody else? No? Great, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
roll call please.
Mr. Norris?
Yes.
Mrs. Burkhead?
Yes.
Mrs. Crawford?
Yes.
Mr. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Mr. Witzenhauer?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.